Welcome to Chapter 3 Motivation. There's a funny story about an actor who asked a famous director, I can't remember which one, "What is my motivation for this scene?" The director, without missing a beat, responded, "Your paycheck." Now that is a bit hardline, but it is your job as a media manager to figure out what motivates your employees and how to get them moving toward the company goal. Some are motivated by affirmation and words of encouragement. Others need a kick in the pants. And for some, motivation changes as they become more experienced. You are trying to hit a moving target sometimes, but that's what makes this business so exciting. Motivation is defined as the internal and external factors that stimulate desire and energy in people to be continually interested and committed to a job, role, or subject, or to make an effort to attain a goal. Because mass media requires so many tasks of its employees, motivation by the employee and their leadership are critical. When leaders look at motivation as a process of needs or job requirements, producing drives or motives that lead to goals being achieved, it can be easier to motivate people. One thing we talk about when talking about motivation is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It is believed that people are driven by certain needs, or a hierarchy of needs, and to move up through the levels, the needs at each previous level must first be met. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a five-stage model that can be divided into a five-tier hierarchy. First is physiological, food, drink, sleep. Next comes safety, or shelter and security. Third is social, acceptance, belonging, group membership, love. Next comes esteem, or recognition and prestige, success in your job or in whatever your endeavor. And finally, self-actualization, self-fulfillment of potential. The deficiency of basic needs are said to motivate people when they are unmet. One must satisfy lower-level basic needs before progressing on to meet higher-level growth needs. Once these needs have been reasonably satisfied, one may be able to reach the highest level called self-actualization. Every person is capable and has the desire to move up the hierarchy toward a level of self-actualization. Unfortunately, progress is often disrupted by failure to meet lower-level needs. Life experiences, including divorce and loss of job, may cause an individual to fluctuate between levels of the hierarchy. Motivating people requires forethought and strategy. Besides the needs already mentioned, most people want to influence others, either through power or believing they make a difference, and to be liked, a sense of belonging. The ERG model is created by Clayton Alderfer in reaction to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Alderfer distinguishes three categories of human needs that influence an employee's behavior, existence, and relatedness and growth. Existence needs are physiological and safety needs such as hunger and thirst. Related needs, social and external esteem, involvement with family, friends, and coworkers. And growth needs, internal self-esteem and self-actualization, a desire to be creative, productive, and complete meaningful tasks. Contrary to Maslow's idea that access to the higher levels requires satisfaction in the lower level needs, according to Alderfer, the three ERG areas are not stepped in any way. Leaders who are managing people need to be keenly aware that not every employee or team member is created the same. Therefore, it is likely that what motivates one team member doesn't motivate the other. Managers should be asking team members what motivates them, and then working together to determine their strengths that they do to make a difference in the organization. People generally repeat behavior that is rewarded or reinforced and avoid a behavior that is negative. Such conditioning falls into two categories, classical and operant. On this slide and on the following slide, you'll be able to see the definitions for classical and operant conditioning, as well as a couple of examples. With classical conditioning, think about Pavlov's dogs. Pavlov would reward his dogs when they did something well, punish them when they did something poorly. So therefore, if they wanted to remain rewarded, they would continue doing the positive manner. Same thing with people. The book gives some good examples of each of the four different contexts for operative conditioning on pages 54 and 55. Many times motivation relies on what an employee believes rather than what is observable or true. People influence their own motivators through their beliefs or personal efficacy. A good leader or manager sets expectations with employees from day one so there are no surprises. This sets the tone for a strong and productive working relationship. Leaders or managers must understand the motivation process. The three theories we'll discuss are equity, expectancy, and goal setting. In the equity theory, the key assumption is that inequity is a motivator. If pay or title isn't the same, an employee may strive for the pay or title they feel they deserve, therefore motivating them to achieve more or quit if they feel they cannot reach it. In the media industry, inequity can be felt by those who aren't the stars. Think about it. In a television newscast, who are the stars? The anchors, right? They get all the glory and everyone sees them. But what about the people behind the scenes, without whom there would be no newscast? And by its very nature, we have a factory mentality in the media. We have to churn out more copy, meet more deadlines, cover more stories. But at the same time, we have intelligent, highly educated people who want to bring depth to coverage and show their creative side. They can feel very limited by the tight news holes we face. Or the production schedules can wreak havoc. George Lucas felt really frustrated when he made the original Star Wars trilogy because he wanted to do so much more, but time and money constraints limited his creativity. In expectancy theory, a person's belief that working hard will enable various work goals to be achieved can be a motivator. For example, if an employee doesn't feel they can achieve the needed goals to attain the motivator, they simply won't try. Please reference Figure 3.3 on page 56 in your textbook, which demonstrates this theory visually. Expectancy theory, at the core of the theory, is the cognitive process of how an individual processes the different motivational elements. This is done before making the ultimate choice. The outcome is not the sole determining factor in making the decision of how to behave. Expectancy theory is about a mental process regarding choice, or choosing. It explains the processes that an individual undergoes to make choices. What motivates employees to go an extra mile? One recent survey that analyzed over 200,000 employees' responses relating to organizational culture found that peers and camaraderie are the number one reason employees go the extra mile. Number 2 is intrinsic desire to do a good job, and number 3 is feeling encouraged and recognized. The survey went on to show that 79% of employees feel undervalued or not valued at all, which fosters feelings of inequity. So what can you do as a leader or manager in your organization? As mentioned before, setting expectations up front is key, but you can also create programs that help foster a workplace culture where people really want to work. You can institute a formal recognition program. It could be something as simple as a weekly award written on a whiteboard, and it's peer-based, not a top-down reward. Small steps can make a big difference in the workplace. Another motivator is goal setting. In the late 1960s, Locke's pioneering research into goal setting and motivation gave us our modern understanding of goal setting. He showed that clear goals and appropriate feedback motivate employees. He went on to highlight that working toward a goal is also a major source of motivation, which, in turn, improves performance. Locke's research showed that the more difficult and specific a goal is, the harder people tend to work to achieve it. In one study, Locke reviewed a decade's worth of laboratory and field studies on the effects of goal setting and performance. He found that, for 90% of the time, specific and challenging, but not too challenging, goals led to a higher performance than easy or do your best goals. For example, telling someone to try hard or do your best is less effective than saying try to get more than 80% correct or concentrate on beating your best time. Likewise, having a goal that's too easy is not motivating. Hard goals are more motivating than easy ones because it feels more of an accomplishment to achieve something you've worked hard for. According to Herzberg, individuals are not content with the satisfaction of lower-order needs at work. For example, those needs associated with minimum salary levels or safe and pleasant working conditions. Rather, individuals look for the gratification of higher-level psychological needs having to do with achievement, recognition, responsibility, advancement, and the nature of the work itself. However, Herzberg added a new dimension to this theory by proposing a two-factor model of motivation, based on the notion that the presence of one set of job characteristics or incentives leads to worker satisfaction at work, while another separate set of job characteristics leads to a dissatisfaction at work. Thus, satisfaction and dissatisfaction are not on a continuum with one increasing as the other diminishes, but are independent phenomena. This theory suggests that to improve job attitudes and productivity, leaders and managers must recognize and attend to both sets of characteristics and not assume that an increase in satisfaction leads to decrease in unpleasurable dissatisfaction. Hygiene factors are those that do not give positive satisfaction or lead to higher motivation. though dissatisfaction results from their absence. The term hygiene is used in the sense that these are maintenance factors. These are intrinsic to the work itself and include aspects such as company policies, supervisory practices, or wages and salary. Herzberg often referred to hygiene factors as KITA factors, which is an acronym for kick in the ass, the process of providing incentives or threat of punishment to make someone do something. According to Herzberg, hygiene factors are what causes dissatisfaction among employees in a workplace. In order to remove dissatisfaction in a work environment, these hygiene factors must be eliminated. There are several ways that this can be done, but some of the most important ways to decrease dissatisfaction would be to pay reasonable wages, ensure employees' job security, and to create a positive culture in the workplace. Herzberg considered the following hygiene factors from highest to lowest importance: company policy, supervision, employees' relationship with their boss, work conditions, salary, and relationships with peers. Eliminating dissatisfaction is only one half of the task of the two-factor theory. The other half, obviously, would be to increase satisfaction in the workplace. This can be done by improving on motivating factors. Motivation factors are needed to motivate an employee to higher performance. Herzberg also further classified our actions and how and why we do them. For example, if you perform a work-related action because you have to, then that is, if you have, let me try that again. If you perform a work-related action because you have to, then it is classified as movement. But if you perform a work-related action because you want to, then it is classified as motivation. Herzberg thought it was important to eliminate job dissatisfaction before going on to creating conditions for job satisfaction because it would work against each other. Herzberg contended that hygiene or preventative factors do not produce motivation, but can prevent motivation from occurring. If management attends to the preventive factors such as salary, security, company policies, etc., this typically keeps employees from becoming highly dissatisfied. However, according to Herzberg, job-related motivators such as recognition, advancement, increased responsibility, when combined with hygiene factors, provide true motivation. Wehoy and Weaver found in a major study that journalists differ by medium as to what they consider the most important factor for job satisfaction. Daily newspaper, wire service, and radio journalists cited job security, whereas TV journalists said the importance of helping people is the primary factor. Groups of 2 or more created by a manager are considered formal and a necessity for organizations to function. This might include committees, task forces, or project teams. Informal groups develop directly by socialization encouraged by formal structure. Creative influences on informal groups range from physical proximity of employee workspaces to the common values their jobs and backgrounds instill in them. Groups provide an identity of sorts for their members. For example, TV news anchors often identify with other news anchors based on shared experiences of what it is like to be a news anchor, the lingo they use, etc. They may also become close friends with other anchors in their market. They get each other. It's comforting to find others who really understand your world. One consequence of groups is the pressure groups place on their members. Group members acquire shared norms and values, and form alliances. In the media arena, you also have many innovative and creative minds around the table. Managers must understand the dynamics of groups to be determined effective group work and outcomes. The media industry is a fast-paced, labor-intensive field of work. Because of that, there are a few areas of concern for management. Number 1 is retention. The ultimate motivational problem is turnover when an employee quits. Turnover rates vary, but in media can range as high as 50%. Stress can be in every aspect of life, but stress in the media world can be higher due to the stories they may be covering that deal with literally life and death, low pay, poor hours, and deadlines. Managers can play a big role on reducing stress by managing expectations and solid communication. Creativity is the lifeline to any media organization. When that is stifled because of insufficient resources, lack of staff, long hours, and burnout, which causes more problems and job satisfaction, obviously motivation will be stifled. The best plan for management is to put policies and programs in place to prevent morale problems from arising and foster a healthy culture. That will greatly reduce dissatisfaction and in turn keep employees longer, reduce their stress, and let creative ideas flow freely. Managers need to understand that the media industry is filled with creative, self-motivated individuals, and recognitions and rewarding employees is the key to motivation and happiness within the organization. On this next several slides are some practical applications and basic needs to motivating the subordinate. One is that the behavior is a function of the situation and the organism. Employees will behave in a way that fits the given situation and how the environment is within their media organization. You also need to remember that subordinates do not see things the way you do as a manager. You need to be cognizant of that and sensitive to it, but still manage and lead at the same time. Extrinsic motivation occurs when we are motivated to perform a behavior or engage in an activity in order to earn a reward or avoid a punishment. Intrinsic motivation involves engaging in a behavior because it is personally rewarding, essentially performing an activity for its own sake rather than the desire for some external reward. At the peak of Maslow's hierarchy is self-actualization. The hierarchy suggests that when the other needs at the base of the pyramid have been met, the individual can then focus their attention on this pinnacle need. Self-actualization is described as the desire for self-fulfillment, namely to the tendency for him to become actualized in what he is potentially. Self-actualized people tend to accept themselves and others as they are, and they embrace other people for who they are. Other individuals are treated the same regardless of background, current status, or other socioeconomic and cultural factors. Media professionals feel called to the profession and are motivated regardless of some of the obstacles discussed earlier. Constant communication is critical to understanding how to motivate your team members. Challenging them, then checking in to see if they need some guidance. Then debriefing after an assignment or project to see what they learned, what obstacles they had to overcome, showing a genuine interest. When employees feel heard and valued, they are happy and encouraged and produce results for the team and organization. Jim Collins' Good to Great book talks about this theory. It's called The First Two, Then What? Getting the right people in the right seats on your team is critical when your goal is to build a great team. Put your best people on your biggest opportunities and watch your team soar to new heights.